Our first reading and gospel today are a good example of what happens to the Mass readings during Lent. Usually during ordinary time, the first reading has nothing to do with the gospel. They're just different stories. But during Lent and during Advent, the liturgists choose readings that have something to do with each other. And the main theme today is obviously fasting. In the first reading from Isaiah, the Israelites have returned from exile. And during exile, they received all sorts of promises that God would restore the people, it would be a second Exodus, everything would be fine. And they get back and it's not. The city walls are destroyed, the temple's just a heap of ruins. They have famine, they have drought, they have locusts, they have nomads coming in and raiding the town. So they say to God, God, where are you? You made these promises. And not only that, we're doing our religious practices. You're supposed to keep your part of the bargain. And the answer is, yeah, you're doing a lot of religious things, but not with your heart. You're just going through the motions. And that's one of the great dangers of Lent. Lent, we all try to promise to do something, but does it change our hearts? Does it make us more loving people? Some people, when they fast during Lent, they're miserable. Please eat. We have enough miserable people around already. Or all they think about is that which they've given up. And when they get to Easter, it's almost like, yeah, I won. I kept my promise. As opposed to viewing it as an opportunity to really make it a spiritual journey. So why fasting? Number one, many of us abuse food. Too much, too little, the wrong thing. Did I hit it just about everybody? I always tell people my favorite is a 13-ounce bag of Dorito ranch flavor. I consider that a single portion serving. And when I finish it, you have to hold the bag up and get the crumbs, right? Fasting puts food in the proper perspective. Second, we fast to learn discipline, to be able to say no to those things which we don't want to do, but we're so easily tempted to do it. Getting angry while we're driving, watching the wrong shows on TV, giving a smart aleck response when we're in a bad mood, all of these things, being judgmental. A lot of us feel very judgmental. A lot of us feel very angry in these days. I'm hearing that all the time. Fasting reminds us that we can say no. We can be the people we want to be. And so it's a good thing. Fasting gives us room for Christ. That when we feel that hunger pain or whatever it is, then instead of filling it in with the donut, we fill it in with Christ. We let it be a reminder to us. Sort of like the alarms on our watch remind us to take our medicine, time to get walking, things like that. I really wish my smartwatch weren't so smart. It's annoying, but it does remind us. And so that hunger pain can be good. We fast to be in solidarity with those who are starving. They don't show it on the world news, but in Ethiopia, Somalia, there are literally millions of people starving to death these days. And so fasting spiritually brings us into one with them. And hopefully by fasting, we're setting aside a little bit of the money and giving it to a charity to help feed those people, whether it be in Ethiopia or it be downtown in Baltimore. Doesn't make much of a difference as long as we're reaching out. And Jesus gives us another example of why we fast. Because the bridegroom is gone. In a lot of cultures, when somebody dies in the family, you fast for a certain number of days. I worked with Iraqi Christians, and when a mother-in-law died in the family, my friend fasted for 10 days on bread and water, for 10 days. Didn't shave, didn't wash. The washing in Rome, you didn't notice it. But the idea that when somebody we love dies, it's hard to eat, It's hard to get it down our throat. And so we fast to commemorate the fact that someone we love, someone who certainly loves us, has died. Now, what are the rules for fasting? Just to remind you, 18 to 59. If you're pregnant, if you're nursing, you don't have to fast. If you're sick, you don't have to fast. And really, there's only 2 days of fasting required, Ash Wednesday and Good Friday. And as I mentioned on Ash Wednesday, our fasting, Catholic fasting, is wuss. You can eat a full meal and 2 partial meals. The Muslims, the Jews, they fast much better than we do. But we can fast beyond those days. Abstinence doesn't mean crab imperial and lobster bisque. It means a simple meal. And fasting doesn't only have to be food. The one that I've been mentioning all getting ready for Lent, fasting from social media. Wouldn't that be great? Because so many of us are using way too much of it. We're wasting our lives watching it. So to pull back and say, I don't want to do that. Fasting from getting angry while I'm driving. Fasting from swearing, from gossiping. Choose your favorite sin. And if you can't think of one, ask your family. They know what you should be working on. And work on that all Lent. But the one thing I do recommend, make it an act of love. That when you feel that attraction to turning on the cell phone again, say, I'm not going to do it as a sacrifice for Joe, who's dying of cancer. Lord, if in my being a little bit uncomfortable not looking at this, if that can lighten his burden in any way, then let it be. So again, we see that fasting, it's not just for us. It's not to lose 10 pounds during Lent. Fasting can become an act of love if we do it with the right intention.